Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Throughout my journey in Christianity, I have been enamored with the gospel narratives. I love the gospels. And in 2011, my faith kind of had a crisis. I was confused and disillusioned and uncertain and upset about the things that were happening in the world. And the thing that I used to find solace in wasn't helping at the time. So I went to the Lord and I cried out and I said, God, I can't find you. I can't see you and I need you. And what God said to me as I was reading the Gospels was, look for me in the black print. Now, I'm a black person and I'm a black believer. And so I found that kind of funny. But when I started to pay attention to what the Holy Spirit showed me that day, things began to change in my life with God. And I want to talk to you about Jesus in the black print. You see, what we see in the red print is all of the things that Jesus says, and this is important. We should care about those things. But when we pay attention to Jesus in the black print, we not only learn what Jesus has done, we get to learn what Jesus is prone to do. And when we know what God is prone to do, it helps us navigate uncertainty in the world. So I began to read these stories again and again, and I started to look at Jesus in a different way. For instance, in Matthew, we all know the story about when Jesus is turning over the tables in the temple. He's very angry. He is mad, like really mad. And it says that he flips the tables and he smashes things. He's destroying these people's place of business. This isn't cute tipping things over. God is mad about the fact that these people are hindering the entrance to the temple for those who don't know God. And guess what happens? Jesus turns these temples over. He's very angry. And then in Matthew, it says, and then the blind and the lame came to Jesus. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been around angry men before in my life, and I know that I don't want to go within 10 feet of an angry man once he's exploded in anger. So what was it about Jesus, I began to think, that even his anger made the most vulnerable people in society feel safe? And when I thought about that, I began to feel more safe with God. There's another instance in the Gospels where, one of the famous things that Jesus does is he feeds the 5,000. Well, one day I'm following the instruction of the Lord and I'm looking at Jesus in the black print, and I see that this most famous miracle was done while Jesus had a broken heart. And it says in the passage that John the Baptist has just been beheaded and his friends come and tell the disciples and Jesus. And it says that Jesus goes off to a quiet place by himself. And while he's on the way to that quiet place, a crowd meets him, interrupts him, and he ends up performing the feeding of the 5,000. Now, this is a miracle that we all know about that is so famous. But I never realized that Jesus serves people even when his heart is broken. That's love. So I began to pay attention to these things more and more. And as a black person, seeing Jesus in the black print really helped me to wrestle with what it means to be black in America and what it means to be a black Christian in America. And so I hope that it's helpful for you to see what I saw. And then I realized that this wasn't new. My ancestors have been doing this forever. When they were being tormented by a slave-holding religion, they were able to see Jesus in the black print and say, I know what you're saying he says, but that is not my Jesus. That's not what Jesus is like. And so for people who are with me, who have felt some uncertainty and disillusionment, I want to encourage you, get to know the Jesus in black. He wants to be with us and talk to us. And I know that sometimes our quiet times can feel a little bit like awkward elevator silence. I don't know about you, but they felt like that for me before. And so what I wanted to do was share something that I wrote that can give us somewhat of an on-ramp to our conversations to turn that awkward silence into a dialogue that changes our lives. Now, this is a poem that I wrote based on what I found in the Jesus in black. And I hope you enjoy it. He grew up poor. He lived as a minority. He grew up with a single mother. He has younger siblings. He has been a zygote, an embryo, a fetus, an infant, a toddler, a child, and a teenager. He has had his diaper changed. He's gone through puberty. He has a past. He's had to pay taxes. He's doing things and thinking things and feeling things right now as I speak. He has a future. He's been rejected. He's been lied to. He's been lied about. He's taken a beating. He's been stripped naked and had objects forced into his body without his consent. He's been abandoned by his friends. He's been called a bastard. He's been betrayed and kissed. He's been judged by religious leaders. He had to listen to people call his mom a whore. Read that in John 8. He's been punched in the face. He's been publicly shamed. He's had his things taken. He's been laughed at, spit on, exploited, publicly shamed. He's been unlawfully executed by the state. He has suffocated. He was innocent and murdered anyway. He is the only human who has ever really seen God the Father, and he's the only human who has never really sinned. He hasn't ever sinned. He was there in the beginning before the world or the heavens was made. He made everything. He's holding it together right now. He's holding you and me together right now. He's the only human who is uncreated. He is the happiest man who's ever lived. He's the funniest man who's ever lived. He's the most humble man who has ever lived. The most powerful man who has ever lived. He's the richest man who has ever lived. The safest man who has ever lived. He's the smartest man who has ever lived. The strongest who has ever lived. And he always will be. He knows our deepest fears. He knows our greatest pains. He knows what makes us laugh. He knows what we like to eat. He gets us every time and all the time. He knows what we meant to say. He knows what we wish we would have said. He knows what we hope he says. He knows that we love him. He knows why we get mad at him. He has thoughts and feelings and emotions and sorrows. This is the Jesus in black, and he wants to talk to you.